All right, today we're going to be looking at 10-2, multiplying rational expressions. All right, the domain is the possible set of replacement values for a given variable. Whoops, let's pass on this. I'm going to pass on this because this was part of our 10-1. I just added it. All right, to multiply rational expressions. All right, when I'm multiplying a rational expression, we can always cross-cancel before we multiply out. So if you look at the fraction, I can divide out. I can multiply it all the way out and then break it down into prime factors and cross out common factors in that way. But this takes too long. I don't want to break every number apart and figure out what its prime factors are. If I can find a common factor, I can just reduce it right there. So instead, the cross-canceling method is common factor between 2 and 10 is 2, and I'm left with a 5 in the denominator. The common factor among x and x and those same numerator-denominator is a common factor of x, and I'm really left with a 1 and a 1. Now I can divide out a common factor of 3 and 9, and I'm left with a 3 in the numerator. And so what's left is what is the answer. I'm left with a 3, a y, and a 5. Now remember, every time I'm canceling out, I'm actually left with 1s if there's no number left. So I'm left with 1 times 1 times 3 times y, which equals 3y, all over 1 times 1 times 5, which is 5. You don't really need to do this middle step here. I just wanted to show you what we're actually left with. So reducing by cross-canceling or cross-dividing out a common factor is a much simpler way, especially when the numbers get really big. All right, so now I've got, and number 1, once you pause it and you try it. Now you check your work. I can divide out a common factor of 5, and I'm left with a 2 in the denominator and a 1 in the numerator. I can divide out a common factor of a, and I'm left with an a in the numerator and a 1 in the denominator. Can divide out a common factor of b, and I'm left with b squared in the denominator. Now I can divide out a common factor of 3, and I'm left with a 2 in the denominator. So what's left? We have one more. I can divide out a common factor of c, and I'm left with a over 4b squared c. Now we put that in alpha order. Now the rule here is you can always cross-cancel or divide out a common factor, numerator to denominator. So that could be in the same fraction as well. So step 1, now we're getting a little bit more complicated. We're adding our chapter 6. So now in this fraction, I'm noticing there's a difference of squares here. So the rule is factor first, then cross-cancel. So x squared minus 4 factors out to x plus 2 times x minus 2. And now I can do my cross-canceling. Cancel the x plus 2. I can divide out a 3, and I can divide out a common factor of x. And so what's left is 2x times the quantity of x minus 2 over 1, and I don't need to write that over 1. All right, so here it is. It's just factoring. We factor, then cross-cancel. Factor, then cross-cancel. So pause the recording and make sure to factor and then cross-cancel. Don't forget, we can turn m minus 1 into a fraction of m minus 1 over 1. Any number can be turned into a fraction. So it's n minus 1 over 1. Now pause the recording and try it on by yourself. Now let's check it. Notice I put that m minus 1 over 1. My m squared minus 1 factors out to m minus 1, and now I can cross cancel my m minus 1s, and what's left is 3m over m plus 1. Pause the recording and try number 4. Don't forget to factor. Now let's check your work. So I'm left with negative 3 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. In the first denominator is 5 times the quantity of x plus 2 times 3 times the quantity of x minus 2. Look what we're left with. I need to pause it for a minute, so I will come back.